Picture a Toronto dawn in February 1973. Streetlights hum over Flemingdon Park, and snow flurries swirl like cigarette smoke in the half-dark. A little girl named Angela hefts a patch-frayed duffel nearly as heavy as she is. Her mother, Donna, fishes 2 damp bus transfers from her coat, tucks frozen fingers under Angela's elbow, and together they step onto an idling city bus that smells of diesel and yesterday's salt. When the doors hiss shut, no one else on board knows they're watching the opening frame of a hockey revolution. To feel the full gravity of that journey, we need to spin the calendar back to a Canada anxious about inflation, freshly intoxicated by the A72 Summit Series, and still clinging to the myth that hockey's golden pathway was lined exclusively with white, straight, middle-class boys whose dads could afford new shoulder pads every Christmas. Angela was born on December 22, 1964, in Toronto's St. Michael's Hospital, one floor below, where NHL hopefuls occasionally limped after practice. Her mother, Donna Barato, was a white bookkeeper juggling part-time shifts and bouts of clinical depression. Her father, Leo James, was a black American who'd fled Jim Crow, Mississippi, for construction work north of the border. Leo drifted in and out, leaving Angela with 2 half-sisters, Cindy Kim, and a litany of half-brothers she wouldn't meet until adulthood, including future NHL defenseman Theo Peckham. Their tiny subsidized townhouse backed onto an outdoor rink, but Angela's maternal grandparents wouldn't step inside if she was home. One more door slammed by racism before the girl could even spell the word. None of this sorrow showed the first time she picked up a stick. Neighborhood boys were playing ball hockey in the parking lot when a loose tennis ball skidded to her feet. Angela, 5 years old and wearing rain boots, toe-dragged it around an older kid, flicked a wrister that pinged off a dumpster, and waited for praise. Instead, the boys laughed. "Girls can't play." She answered by hip-checking one of them into a snowbank, then took the ball again. Within an hour, the laughter had quieted. Within a month, she was their first pick. That was Street University, and tuition came in bruises and raised eyebrows. Donna noticed her daughter's obsession, but opportunities for girls' ice hockey were practically non-existent. She nudged Angela towards synchronized swimming. A safer future, she reasoned. Angela endured exactly 1 practice under fluorescent pool lights, swallowed a mouthful of chlorine, and marched home to announce that her destiny was the roar of blades, not the splash of water. Donna sighed, bought a second-hand pair of CCM tacks 2 sizes too big, stuffed the toes with newspaper, and promised to fight any gatekeeper silly enough to block their path. At 8, Angela applied to Flemingdon's Boys League and was deemed ineligible by a hand-typed bylaw. Youth must be male. Donna stormed the office armed with Canada's new Charter of Rights and Freedoms. Discrimination, she said, brandishing a cheap ballpoint pen for emphasis. The league president blinked, folded, and Angela was in. That winter she scored hat tricks so routine, the timekeeper began penciling her name onto the sheet before warm-ups. Parents muttered about balance. Coaches debated fairness. And the president's own son, humiliated in a semifinal, demanded she be expelled. By spring, the bylaws were rewritten, this time with an extra sentence. League participation restricted to boys. Angela's jersey was yanked mid-practice, her tears freezing before they reached the ice. Senior locker rooms in 1977 were smoke-filled catacombs. Women in their late 20s, office clerks, factory workers, teachers, joking about mortgage rates and boyfriends. Angela's voice barely cracked puberty. During her first pre-game pep talk, she sat silent, counting the scuff marks on her gloves. Then the puck dropped, and Newton Brook's veterans witnessed a ferocity no pep talk could manufacture. On her 3rd shift, she deke-walked 2 defenders twice her size, roofed a backhand, and skated by the opposing bench with a polite nod, as if borrowing sugar. By the second intermission, the Saints were rearranging lines to ride her hot stick. By season's end, she averaged nearly 2 points per game. Donna rationed heat to nighttime only, taped plastic over cracked window panes, and juggled debt collector calls between shift work. Yet mother and daughter shared a vow. Hockey was not negotiable. On Saturday mornings before dawn, they trudged to the bus stop, Angela's gear chafing her shoulders, Donna's feet numb in thin boots. Inside the bus, Angela studied street lamps flicking past, memorizing every billboard, early practice in tracking objects while in motion. 45 minutes later, they disembark and hike the final block to an unheated rink. Donna often stood in the cold lobby because admission cost 35 cents she didn't have. Those sacrifices sharpened Angela's competitive hunger, but credit also belongs to an unlikely academic advocate. Overlee Secondary School. Vice Principal Ross Dixon watched Angela dribble a basketball flawlessly one recess, then drag herself to remedial English half asleep. He called her in. "Hockey will open doors," he said, "if you can read the signs." He coached her through essays, waived overdue assignment penalties, and eventually coaxed her diploma across the finish line. Without Dixon, Angela later confessed, "I'd have been the best skating dropout in Ontario." Diploma in hand, she landed at Seneca College in fall 1982. The new program was 2 subways and a city bus from home. Coach Bill White immediately inked her onto the varsity women's roster, then did something that still boggles archivists. He moved her from center to defense. White wanted a breakout specialist. What he got was biblical. Over 14 games that season, Angela scored 50 goals and added 23 assists, numbers that read like typos even today. Imagine Chris Chelios's 948-point NHL career distilled into one semester, then sprinkled with midnight Zamboni shifts and 8 a.m. anatomy exams. Seneca opponents sometimes double-teamed her in the neutral zone. She lowered her shoulder and barreled straight through both, once logging coast-to-coast goals on back-to-back shifts. Away from varsity rinks, she moonlighted with the North York Arrows of the Central Ontario Women's Hockey League, COWHL, where body checking remained legal. She loved it. One memorable February evening in 1985, she shouldered a Brampton defenseman so hard the boards reverberated like a kettle drum. The referee's arm rose, but the crowd erupted too, a recognition that women's hockey could be every bit as raw, loud, and glorious as the men's. Angela would later joke that she collected penalty minutes the way Wade Balak collected bruises, nodding toward the late NHL enforcer, who racked up 1,263 PIMs but only 33 points. Her own COWHL stat line by retirement read 806 points and just under 400 penalties. The late 1980s found women's hockey poised on a precipice. There were whispers of an official world championship, but the International Ice Hockey Federation hesitated, skeptical of talent depth and market interest. Meanwhile, the unsanctioned 1987 World Invitational in North York filled the local arena every night. Angela wore the maple leaf, scored at will, and in the gold medal game darted behind the net, banked the puck off the goalie's skate, then celebrated with fists clenched overhead, a pose that would later appear on a commemorative Canada Post stamp, though few outside the rink noticed at the time. 3 years later, Ottawa finally hosted the first IIHF-sanctioned Women's World Championship. Angela James entered with a reputation so fearsome that Finland double-shaded her all night. She still recorded a hat trick. In the dressing room between games, veteran defenseman Geraldine Heaney remembers Angela quietly re-taping her shin pads while younger teammates buzzed. "Save your juice," she said. "There's a long road yet." By tournament end, she had piled up 11 goals, still the single championship record. Canada captured gold. Media coverage exploded. A Toronto columnist dubbed her the Gordie Howe of women's hockey, focusing on her bruising style. Another writer countered that she was the Wayne Gretzky of women's hockey, awestruck by her scoring touch. Angela shrugged. "If you're keeping score, use my real name." With success came scrutiny. Her Afro-Italian complexion made her a novelty at press conferences, where every other face was white. Reporters asked about race in the women's game more than they asked about her power play schemes. She answered politely, but later vented to friends that nobody asked Gretzky about being white. Homophobia lurked too. She had met Ange Couture, a sharp-witted nursing student, in 1986, and the two quietly built a life together. Angela never hid the relationship in locker rooms, yet sponsors balked at featuring a same-sex couple. International success kept mounting. Gold in 1992, 1994, and 1997. Across those worlds, her cumulative 22 goals and 34 points in 20 games produced a points-per-game ratio rivaling Phil Esposito's best tournament runs. She captained the squad in 97, a symbolic first for a black Canadian woman. But the pedestal proved shaky. As the 1998 Olympic debut approached, new head coach Shannon Miller prioritized younger legs, stricter defensive schemes, and what she termed cultural fit. In January, after 18 months of centralized camps, Angela was cut. The phone call came at 7:13 p.m. She listened, no tears. She thanked the coach. She hung up, then hurled a tennis ball across the apartment so hard it chipped plaster. Ange, 6 months pregnant with their first child, placed a hand on her partner's shoulder. "They can't erase what you built," she said. Angela answered, "I know, it still hurts." The sporting press exploded. Some framed it as proof that age eventually conquers legends. Others labeled it short-sighted or political. At a cafe in Calgary, Chris Chelios, then 35 and busy extending his own NHL prime, glanced at the headline and muttered to a teammate, "They just cut their mess here." Canada went on to lose gold in Nagano, felled by an American squad that outskated them in the final 10 minutes. Back home, columnist Rosie DiMano wrote, "Turns out the best wrist shot in the women's game was watching on TV." Angela read that line, folded the paper, and mailed it to her mother with a sticky note. Bus rides were never a waste. Retirement, official anyway, arrived in March 2000. Her farewell game was a National Women's Hockey League semifinal. Late in the third, nursing a 1-goal lead, she blocked a point shot with her ribs, corralled the puck, and shoveled it the length of the ice into an empty net. Horn blared, crowd roared. She skated to center, flipped her stick to a girl in row C, then disappeared into the tunnel as if stepping off stage. But hockey didn't let her vanish. Within months, she finished Level 3 officiating certification, the highest rung then available to women, and she soon whistled junior boys' games where incredulous parents debated whether a woman ref can handle rough stuff. She answered by tossing a pair of 6-foot enforcers before the second period and skating away unruffled. Simultaneously, Seneca College rehired her, this time as senior sports coordinator. Between paperwork and fundraising, she taught weight room etiquette to freshmen and snuck Friday night shooting drills to recreational students. One record still stands near her office. The Breakaway Hockey School check-in sheet listing 314 adult novices coached in a single summer. She compelled lawyers, landscapers, and retirees to refine their edges and their empathy. "Get low in your knees," she'd bark, then soften, "and get lower in your ego." Family life deepened. Angela and Ange welcomed Christian in 1998, Michael in 2000, and Tony in 2002. After the twins' birth, Angela told a friend, "I'm finally playing on a line that never ends." She skipped only one diaper change, and that was to attend her own Hall of Fame induction in November 2010. That evening, under gilded banners in downtown Toronto, she accepted the sport's highest honor beside American superstar Cammy Granato. Cameras flashed. Angela thanked coaches, teammates, and janitors. She saved her final salute for her mother. "Donna," she said, pointing to the balcony, "those bus tokens were gold medals in disguise." The room stood, clapped, some wept. Recognition poured in. AIHF Hall of Fame, 2008, Canada's Sports Hall of Fame, 2009, Order of Canada, 2011, Order of Hockey in Canada, 2021. Yet ask Angela for her favorite accolade, and she points to the Angela James Bowl, awarded from 2008 to 2019 to the Canadian Women's Hockey League's regular season scoring leader. Each spring, she drove to the trophy ceremony, posed for pictures, then cornered the recipient privately. "Great job, now give back." She meant it. In 2014, she launched a scholarship fund for racialized girls in minor hockey, covering league fees, equipment, and transport. Among its first recipients was a shy 11-year-old from Scarborough, who would later suit up for Canada's national U-18 team. When that player scored her first international goal, she texted Angela a screenshot and 3 words: "Your belief worked." Meanwhile, Angela's views on the women's game kept evolving. She lobbied to reinstate body checking, arguing that removing it hadn't reduced injuries but had slowed North American progress. Critics claimed she glorified violence. She countered that physicality and skill weren't mutually exclusive. The debate remains unsettled, one of many open pages in her playbook. Ditto, the lingering wound of her Olympic exclusion. Shannon Miller insists her roster choice was tactical. Angela maintains it was a decision they owned and they paid for. Most historians agree Canada's 1998 lineup lacked her finishing touch, though whether that cost gold no statistic can prove. From 2020 forward, her impact took new shape through the Premier Hockey Federation's Toronto Six franchise. As minority owner and general manager, she blended shrewd salary math with mother hen energy, baking banana bread for rookies, cold calling corporate donors, and playing DJ on the bus. Her playlist, Motown, Tragically Hip, Lizzo. In 2023, the Six won the Isabelle Cup. Photos show Angela kissing the trophy at center ice, wearing a hoodie that reads simply, "Unapologetically me." Ask her about Wade Balak, Chris Chelios, and Ron Ellis, three male stalwarts the media often links to her, and she grins at the contrast. Balak fought demons on and off the ice. Chelios taught us longevity. Ellis proved community counts. I borrowed from all of them, but forged my own toolbox. Indeed, her 20-year playing span mirrors Chelios' marathon, her advocacy echoes Ellis' post-career wellness crusade, and her penalty box wit sometimes recalled Balak's self-deprecating charm. Yet none of them navigated the triple bind of racism, sexism, and homophobia the way she did. That choreography remains uniquely hers. Personal life, too, retains rich layering. Angela and Ange settled in Richmond Hill, in a modest split level, whose basement doubles as memorabilia museum. Tony's finger-painted Mother's Day cards hang beside framed IIHF jerseys. Michael's science fair ribbon dangles off her 1994 World Championship medal. Suppertime debates involve geometry homework, but also whether to re-edge skates at home or drive to the pro shop. On winter Sundays, the family often hits the local outdoor rink at dusk, floodlights flickering on, and pass the puck in a loose five-person drill. When a neighbor once asked why she doesn't dominate her kids for fun, Angela smiled. "I'm teaching them space. Hockey's brutal without room to breathe. If all this sounds heroic, remember the human cracks." She wakes most mornings with lower back spasms from an untreated vertebral fracture in 1989. Her right wrist clicks due to ligament damage. Some days the pain flares so hot, she buttons her coat with her left hand. Mentally, echoes of slurs still slice. In 2012, an anonymous note arrived at Seneca calling her Hall of Fame, induction, political correctness run amok. She reread it once, filed it in a shoebox labeled Noise, then suited up for a charity alumni game that raised $12,000 for youth mental health, the same stumbling block that claimed Wade Balak's life in 2011. "We all bleed," she later told a Sportsnet interviewer. "The trick is finding good bandages." March 2024. Capital One Arena, Washington, D.C. The NHL's Washington Capitals are honoring Women's History Month. A ceremonial puck drop is planned. The announcer calls her name. Out she strides, wearing a Crimson Caps jersey with number 8, Alex Ovechkin's number. But the backplate reads A. James. She lifts the puck, winks at Ovi himself, and quips into the mic, "Relax, Alex. I promise not to chase your scoring record. Tonight." The arena laughs. Cameras pan to a row of wide-eyed black girls clutching cardboard signs. Girls play too. Their cheeks are painted with tiny maple leaves and rainbows. When Angela drops the puck, she leans toward them, points and mouths, "You're next." That is why her journey still matters. In an age where representation risks morphing into hashtag tokenism, Angela James stands as proof that living, sweating, failing, and thriving in full technicolor is the most subversive activism of all. She didn't just open doors, she took them off the hinges so nobody would nail them shut again. And that's all for today's video. If you like this video, hit that thumbs up, let us know your thoughts in the comments section, and subscribe so you won't miss out on future uploads. See you next time.